I can, if I could build you up, don't bring me down, bring me down. If I fall, then would you lift me up? Would you lift me up or bring me down?
They would like this mark the beginning of a revolution. This is only the beginning.
If I can, if I could build you up, don't bring me down, bring me down. If I fall, then would you lift me up? Would you lift me up or bring me
Okay, hello, welcome. I am never going to get used to doing these intros. But then again, I will also never trust that Ryan will be doing his job properly. Haha, doing it again. So today, on this episode 4 of Icebreakers, we are joined by some lovely guests, and we are missing our lovely co host, in case you can't tell. Ben, he's not dead, as much as the image make it look like. He's just not here. He's going back home. But he'll be here next week, I hope. And I'm also joined by Ryan Fleming, as his name is, and we're also here special guest Otter. Otter, what's up?
Hello.
Yeah, you're off the back of a very good evening, I would say. Yeah, you had a fun night, I would imagine. Yeah, stressful maybe, but fun all the same. So I think we should just get straight into it, and we start looking at the games that maybe were eventful, maybe not so eventful of last night. So Ryan, what would we start with here? I think we'll leave UCC for nothing really happened.
Yeah, UCC can go towards the end. We could, you know what? We'll just get Ben's not here, so how about that clown fiesta of getting school 2-0?
Okay, I was waiting for this. Do you know what? I didn't think of it myself, but I'm really glad he's not here and we're talking about it. Also, apologies, my voice is fucked. I talk too much, and this happens from time to time. So, yeah, Trinity played against our friends at the Ulster Unicorns. What was the score, Ryan? Say it nice.
16-8 to TCD on Overpass, and then 16-13 to TCD on Vertigo, which maybe should have went the other way.
I like that. Do we know whose map pick was which? Actually, did they each win their who picked Vertigo?
So yeah, Overpass was picked by Unicorns, which surprised. Well, because I know Unicorns have been pracking it. They're pracking it in prep for you guys to maybe pick into it. And obviously they had a better showing on it. And then yeah, TCD picked Vertigo and Inferno. No, Mirage would have been the decider, which would have actually been really interesting as well.
Yeah, I think Mirage would have been a banger because you've got Ekip and Quigs. They've got some other players too, but is there any point talking about them? And then up against what is already a proven decent Mirage side in the UU boys. Yeah, are you guys surprised? Anton, did you get a chance to see much from the game? Are you who would you have predicted?
I thought UU would get at least one map, so I was thinking I had full confidence that Trinity would walk away with it without a problem. I expected a 2-1. If I only saw a bit of the stream on their second map, and if I'm correct, they were like 6 or 7 rounds up. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
against Trinity on Vertigo, and then they just lose 16-13. I didn't watch the whole match, so I don't know what happened, but that's what I got from a glimpse of the stream they had. A bit disappointing for them, I'm pretty sure, but I expected a bit more from them, especially on, let's say, a map like Overpass. But
Yeah.
apparently they just weren't good enough.
Ryan, we have a weekly segment of the long segment where we talk about how good our good friend Jonathan, and we love talking about Jonathan. Do you have any insight into what happened this game? Maybe some information about the veto and what went wrong.
Well, I've nothing really. Like I usually have my claws into one or two of those people, and obviously Ben gives us a bit of insight. But as far as the picks go, I know Ben last week said that they had a feeling they knew the maps. I don't think anyone's really surprised at what sort of came out. What was surprising though is they, yeah, as Otter said, they were up quite a bit on Vertigo, and I was watching it because I think Tonzi was streaming it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure somebody will. People love doing that. Tonzi really, like, he had the B side on lockdown, but because he was playing so well, they, you know, had him over there and he was kind of isolated sometimes. Ben was able to fast rotate in once or twice, but if they hit B quick enough and took Tonzi out of the play, you know, it was just they had the B site and the people who weren't performing as well as the carry. And I think a couple of rounds towards A, it sounded like their comms were getting a bit messy. People, you know, taking their eye away for a second, and that just happens to be the second that someone walks around, shoots two people in the side of the head.
Yeah.
Overpass was, it was all right. Like, you know, I tuned in. They got a nice jump on the T side, but I think there was one round in particular where it was a 2v1 for unicorns. They were T side on the A side, and they were just peeking. They were just peeking, trying to trade each other out. If one of them just lets the other die, just hides bathrooms, they win the round. I'm not saying it's all down to that, but whenever, you know, you're getting tilted on the T side for losing shit you shouldn't, it, you know, it sets you back quite a bit.
Yeah. I think I'd be maybe a bit surprised by some of the performances from the UU guys. Some players that normally you'd look to perform. I'd see what we can see on the stream now. We've got Blue Penguin. Looks like it was this Vertigo. Yeah, Vertigo.
Yeah.
Looks like he was struggling a bit. Long was struggling. To be honest, it did look like just Tonzi was having impact. And that surprises me because normally when a game is this close, there's more than one player pulling their weight.
Yeah.
And for me, from just looking at these stats, which you can't really get the full picture because there's supportive elements, you've got calling, stuff like that, which takes you out of the fragging picture a bit. I just don't think this is what we need from UU. And frankly, I did predict this. I'm not bragging. I did say Trinity 2-0, not because I'm spiteful, because UU handed my ass to me, but because I do think the pairing of Ekip and Quigs is just so strong. And then if any one of the other three can turn up, it's over. I think a lot of teams will have a hard time, even teams like UU, which in my opinion, like I think we can say a bit of an anomaly from Tonzi. I don't think he's really put too many performances up like this, which it's good to see, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But normally we'd be looking at the Penguin and Long show. And when neither of them show up quite as well in the second map, I think they were kind of bound to lose against two players like that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds you of maybe like Nothing whenever he used to play the sort of one in every 4 maps he'll like properly pop off and sort of make it his own. And sometimes it's even a half from Tonzi, but yeah, you know, have to give it to him begrudgingly. He played a nice Vertigo apparently.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously it wasn't enough, but I think he did what he could. And unfortunate, and with that we see the UU boys, they're off, they're done. They end up, despite beating UCDB, we place the same. So fuck you, Ben. He's not here to defend himself, so I'm saying that now. Yeah, so then, Ryan, were there any other interesting matches on at that time?
Sort of looking through it, a lot of them were kind of a stomp. The WIT MTU one, I think, surprised a couple of people that MTU played it that close.
Yeah,
I'll get the stats up.
Do we know what the score? Anton, have you heard anything about this? Not sure how in touch you are with some of those players.
I'm not really in touch. I'll be honest. I know many probably expected WIT to walk away with it, but ever since WIT lost Kerbenji, I thought, you know, they're out of it. Like,
Yeah.
no offense, they're all great players, but Kerbenji was their crutch.
Yeah.
He'd do everything for them. I thought MTUA had a good shot at it. I mean, it was very close. First map on Inferno, 16-13 to WIT. Second map on Vertigo, 16-12 to MTUA. and then WIT won in overtime on Overpass 1916. So it's it was really close, and it's unfortunate for the MTUA lads that they lost, which I thought they would win 2-1, and I assumed it'd be very close, but it's WIT were there.
Yeah, the result surprises me because I honestly think, and despite knowing and liking a lot of the MTU guys, I thought WIT would come in and spank them because without Nalco, it kind of looked in a lot of their games that MTUA was just the Nalco show. It was literally him running around with the up, seeing how many aces and 4Ks he can get. But I think we've seen now, especially in recent weeks in general, that they've actually got a really talented lineup. I'm actually really impressed the fact that they did this much damage. The fact like the team that didn't win a map last season got to the top 16 this season, took a map off what was a top 8 team last season. I think they should be really proud. They lost by a nail's edge. They were so close to pulling it over. Sure, if they had Nelco, I think they probably would have just creamed these guys. But I mean, I think this is something they should be proud of. They played a close game, and I think honestly, any other day they probably could have beaten them because, like Anton was saying, I don't think WIT are great. I haven't been too impressed by them, and from what I've heard, they got 16-0'd by DCU before. I know this was in groups, but I mean, like we did. We'll get to my game next. We played against DCU. We had the pleasure to play against DCU, and spoiler, we got rounds. I mean, we'll get to that next, but we at least got one round, right? And I just think WIT aren't in the best spot. And what I was saying last week, I've heard Kerbenji might be coming back for next season. I think this team would be a lot better. I think they're good. They could get to another level, and they do have some good pieces. I've played ICL with one or two of them, level 10s, decent players. Just need that, like Anton was saying, that crutch in Kerbenji. And I think both teams have potential. I'm more impressed with MTU though, despite losing. But I mean, credit's due.
Yeah, it's worth noting that ADZZO, I don't know how the fuck I'm supposed to say that, but it's worth noting he dropped 39 frags in their 16-13 win. So, if that doesn't happen, MTU walk away 2-0.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for MTU. He was obviously, I'm not even going to try to say the name, but he was obviously just feeling it on the day.
The classic life game.
Yeah, we love the phrase, but it was a life game, obviously. And then moving on, I suppose, on the lower end of the bracket, we have NCI and NUIG. The NUIG was in your group, was it?
Yes,
This was week 1. What do you think about them as a team?
I think they've improved, even though I'd say their lineup is a bit worse than it was, because I don't know what the situation is between NUIGA and NUIGB, because I think there's some really good players on NUIGB who probably deserve to be on the A team.
Yeah. Any names come into mind?
One Hand Wonder he played with them last season. He's the one to look out for the most.
Yeah.
But all their other players are really good. Darcy, he's a Rocket League player, and he claps in CSGO as well, which is confusing because I remember playing against him in Rocket League and he smashed me. So
just a gamer.
Yeah, just a gamer.
I'll be honest, I didn't expect much from NUIG here, but I will say getting 9 rounds against NCI on Dust 2 is an achievement in my opinion, especially Dust 2 NCI is quite difficult. That's the exact same amount of rounds UCD got.
Yeah, actually that's a fair point, to be fair. Yeah, and I wouldn't really put NUIG and UCD on the same level. Maybe now I would, to be fair. They finished in the same place, so I guess they're actually exactly on the same level. I don't know what I'm saying, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I mean that's a rip to NUIG. They did get 2-0'd. I think NCI are the dark horse of the tournament, alongside yourselves in UCC. I think anything NCI do is really interesting because from what I know, they have a very puggy style. I know 1 or 2 of the players, and like the likes of Comeback King. Like if you give him space, and that is all the other 4 people have to do, give that man space, he will entry any site. He will take whatever clutch he needs. Like he's just phenomenal, especially on the traditional pug maps, like Mirage, like Dust. Like I know he's a big Dust 2 fan. So I think they're a good team. I didn't really think NUIG would have a chance. Not to say they're bad. I think they got dealt a rough hand being in this group. I think they probably would have had really good games in my group. I think that would have balanced things pretty nicely. They probably would have got out in the groups there as well. But yeah, that's the end of NUIG. Neither team got further. They did equally as good as UCD. So good for them, I suppose.
Yeah, we do have a little bit of insight. Apparently, Fionn in the chat is saying that they threw a couple of 1v3s and stuff, so they probably feel like they could have done a lot better in 16-6
Okay.
at least on Inferno. But that could just be loser's sorrow.
Yeah, it could be anything for sure. Look, I actually scrimmed NCI before. I think their Inferno is quite beatable. It's just not a lot of teams play Inferno in ice, from what I can tell. I think they're quite beatable on it. I think they've got a few weaknesses. I lost that scrim, but I think there were some factors for that. I think a good team could beat them pretty handily on Inferno, and
Yeah,
they're quite comfortable on it.
I'd argue NUIG are pretty comfortable on Inferno as well. I still remember that game from
Yeah,
the
I remember too.
first season.
Yeah.
The first week. I'm still having flashbacks from that one. It scared the shit out of us.
That was a close series.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I suppose we'll keep going from here. Just keep moving our way up. We've got QB, Back Six, and UL Esports. Now I imagine we have a few UL people in the chat. Is anyone surprised by the Back Six 2-0?
Good God, no.
I'll be honest. When I listened to last week's podcast, I heard someone saying, "Oh, it'll be 2-1 and it'll be close," and I'm like, no offense to the UL lads, they're very nice, and they're quite good. They're quite good as well. But Back Six, like I know Ro was saying Back Six were having problems, but from scrimming them, they fixed those problems real good.
Yeah.
Like we scrimmed them and we got absolutely clapped. So
Yeah.
when I saw that they were going to be playing UL, I was just like, oh no.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I thought honestly I kind of hoped for a little bit more from UL this season. I thought like on paper that lineup actually is pretty sick. They've got some pretty high level players. Zombinator coming back. He's like the president of their entire club. I thought that's kind of cool. He's coming in to do it himself, like the Thanos meme. But I thought they could do a little bit more. But obviously, Back Six was too much of a task. I actually thought in groups, UL and UCD would have been a banger. But I don't think that was too close from memory, or at least UCD weren't sweating about it anyway. It's kind of open for it. But yeah, that's unfortunate for UL. That's another college just out. They've got multiple teams. I think they do have good potential, though. I think like we discussed it before, none of them practice, and I think at this stage, with this many teams in the competition, if you want to go far, you're going to have to start practicing. Like you will not, and UCD is the prime example, which we will get to. You will not get further anymore on just raw skill. You need to start practicing. This goes to all the teams, and it needs to be consistent. And I think UCC is the perfect story for this because they practice, and look what the fuck they've just done. And we may as well transition perfectly into that. What the fuck did you do, Otter? What happened?
Honestly, I don't really know what happened. I know I was nervous going into that. I was quite scared. I'll be honest. I know Darkness was scared and Sean was scared. Milk didn't really say anything, but he did say after the game he was scared. Linny, he's always just whatever. So that was kind of good. When we were
just talk us through like the veto. What like going in? What did you think? Did you counter their veto or did you pick into your?
we kind of just like we were basic at this point. We're comfortable on any map. We've discussed it. We went through them all. I think our Inferno has improved a lot since the start of the season, so we didn't care if that got picked. But we were just like, at that point, it was UCD like nuke, so we'll just get rid of that.
Yeah.
That was kind of it. We got very fortunate. They picked Overpass. That was going to be our pick, and we're just like, oh wow, we just got a gift. And so we picked Mirage, which proved to be a very good pick. And then we got Train as our decider, which was, I was even surprised to get Train as a decider because we haven't played it this season at all except for Back Six, but we have scrimmed it and we have gone over it in practice. We've just never shown it to anyone because we never had to.
Yeah.
And so when we got that, I was like, okay, this is winnable.
Yeah, and winnable it was. Ryan, do you want to talk us through the scores of the maps and any notes that you might have, like what you've noticed? Like this game was streamed, so I imagine you were watching it, were you?
Yeah, I mean, here towards the last two maps, I think basically everyone in fucking Ice was watching it. But basically, yeah, Overpass 1917 to UCD. I think you guys should have taken it 2-0. I'll be honest. It just seemed like some of the rounds got a little bit tricky. I don't know, did you mention at one point that someone might have had internet issues or something like that?
3 of us on the team had internet issues.
Yeah.
3 of us are on Vodafone, and Vodafone decided to kick the bucket.
It looked like it, to be honest, because if that wasn't the case, someone had massive brain delay. I can't remember who it was, but I think
it was probably Milk.
I think there was Yeah, I think there was a clutch where it was like you guys were both mid on overpass, and I don't know why people struggled with this after plant so much, but someone was holding an op from, I think, divider up to the boxes. Ruben just like dry peeked it and headshotted the opper and just deleted them, and it looked like it might have been slightly delayed reactions, but you know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, they definitely, UCD showed what they were expecting maybe to do throughout the game, which is just clutch these, you know, random rounds that maybe shouldn't go their way. They managed to do it well enough on overpass. I mean, it was tight, and UCC definitely, you guys could have won it, but you know, it is what it is. We expected it to be scrappy. I think everyone who went UCC, which is everyone apart from Sam, said it would be 2-1 to UCC. So, and then obviously, as you can see there
On
were,
that note as well,
yeah.
like I think we spent like half of that overpass game just learning, because we were down 8-2 and I had no clue what to do, especially on the CT side. Like, what can I do? I can call for some aggression, but unless like we start doing something, it was just, we were getting hammered. And then when we started rolling, we brought it up. We were 15-14, you know, one round away from winning. I'd say if we got in our heads in earlier, we probably could have taken that map without an overtime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Then
And then
Mirage, yeah.
just was there like, I don't know how, like I can't really still wrap my hand. I could understand a close map one, right? And I did
Yeah.
predict the UCD 2-0 and I was wrong, but I have no clue how the next two maps happened the way they did. And I would love to know what your thought process was. Did you expect more? Did
I-
you read them? Like what were you thinking?
I expected so much more. I especially on their following half, like there was. We'll get onto Train later. I thought Train was actually felt closer than the Mirage, because Mirage there was a lot of rounds. I think for like the first maybe 12 rounds of the game, it was just we always had 3 or 4 alive every time, apart from maybe the fourth round. But then like towards the end, they seemed to pick up. You know, we kept on winning with 2 players alive, 1 player alive, but we still won in the end with those high rounds. Um, I expected more, yeah. When we got like 5 in a row on T side, I'm like, this has to end at some point, right? I'm
And it
just like,
didn't.
I kept on. You see, Mirage is probably our best map, and everyone basically knows this at this point, anyways. We don't know if Overpass or Mirage is our best map, but I think after this, it's Mirage now.
Yeah.
The tactics, it's just we drill, let's say, more tactics on other maps than Mirage, because I don't have to drill them in. Most people, I tell them to learn these smokes. Maybe I come up with or I find on the internet I think are nice, and then they'll go do it. And Mirage is a map where I can call an idea on the fly. I can explain it in 20 seconds and everyone knows what to do.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that helped as well, that I have a, I don't know how UIGL, but for every map I have a list of strats. So if I'm ever in a panic, I can look and just call one of those.
Okay. Yeah.
And it
Interesting.
just helps to have my head. I had for Overpass, I had 1 pre-planned strat, which was the pistol round, and then for this Mirage, I had 3 strats just for the T side, just in the head, and they all worked. So I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I managed to catch. Luckily, my game was over in about 20 minutes. Both maps. I managed to catch a good bit of your Mirage, and a lot of the Train. Man, it was just like it just took a few minutes. The game actually took 40 minutes, map 2, which is actually surprising considering the score. Like everyone popped off. No one went negative on your entire team. Everyone was positive. Milk, like everyone was pretty close, to be honest. It just seemed more like UCD misplays, and I think maybe people are going to expect me to throw UCD under the dirt now. I don't know if that's what some people expect, just because maybe I've done it before. But there were, and I'm not going to really go into too much detail. There's a lot of internal issues going on during these games. A lot of personal things happening for 1 or 2 of the players, and that I don't want to give them the scapegoat. I won't. They played bad CS. UCC played good CS, but one of the players was not in it, and that caused a lot of stress for the other guys. And I think maybe talking to some of the guys as well, maybe some of the calls were off. I know Incipients had watched your demos, and he tried to read what you were doing, and he would make the gamble call based on what he'd seen in the demo, and you do the opposite. Don't know how you did it, but you did it, and I think that was quite tilting. A couple of players not feeling at the op, they couldn't get going with it, stuff like that. But I mean that was Mirage. Train, I don't think there's an excuse for. I don't think any team should lose 16-2 to anyone.
No, well, not when you start on the CT side.
No, exactly. That is crazy. I mean, Ruben going even, I'm sure he's going to be delighted with that. It doesn't matter what your KD is in a game like this. What mattered was your team got hammered. Like, you guys just looked phenomenal. I was talking to one of the former UCD players, Drags, during the game, because the chat was absolutely obliterating UCD. You had a lot of fans that are in the chat, in case you hadn't seen it. And he was like, what is going on? I was like, this is just UCC, and UCD are crumbling. And that's what they did. It just kind of felt like, and you told me before that you knew Ruben was tilted after the first map.
That was
that.
We didn't really know how far he was tilted, but we assumed after the first half of Mirage, this is it. And I'll say this. You said it was an Aiden thing to do, where they'd like scream during the warm up of the train game. There was like 3 players at once just shouting, and I couldn't understand why they were shouting or what they were saying, but it just felt like, I don't know, they were trying to intimidate us or something. And at that point, I knew. I was like, okay, because when we even though we won Mirage 16-5, I was still worried. I was like, oh shit, here comes Train. I expected UCD's Train to be stronger than their Mirage, and I was scared. I still was, even during the Mirage when we lost 4 rounds in a row on the T side. I was like, oh no, here it goes. But we held on, and that's how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much point getting the stick and poking the dead UCD.
Happened enough last night, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to bring up the UCD Twitter account, this kind of summarizes the season for us. We all I made the tweet.
Yeah.
We all got knocked out. It was an achievement to get 3 teams out of groups, but this is the first time A, B, and C are perfectly balanced, as all things should be. And I don't think we should have seen the season go this way for most of these teams. Actually, I don't think I thought I would get further. I thought UCDA would get further. Didn't think the C team would get this far. But there you go. It happens. It's just kind of the nature of the game. Some people turn up on the day. I think you guys were more prepared. I think you're overall just a better team right now. And we'll see next season. I guess.
Is this not the first season in? Is this not the first season in a couple that UCD have lost to anyone other than TUD, and it happened twice in the one run? I
think it's the first time since TUD built this team that they have now. I mean that's it, and it's unfortunate because this is Incipien's last chance. This was his last season. It's disappointing for him. I know I was rooting for him because he's played in every season to date since from the inception. He was there, and it's unfortunate that he had such a good run of finals. It could have been the year, and they fell short. It happens. This isn't the end for him in CS, but for college CS, this is it. I know Danny, Aiden, and Mr. Turtle will be sticking around for sure. Hopefully, and it's looking like it'll be plus Buchel. We'll see.
For what, like 48 hours?
Maybe I'll make it to 48 hours this time. Would be great, wouldn't it? But that's the end. And I think before we move on to the next thing, I think it's just worth paying respect to what Incipiens has managed to do. I mean, he didn't win anything, but he came pretty close a lot of times.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot. Like I think the scene's going to be we're worse off without him. I think
the college scene at least, yeah.
Yeah, I think in general, Irish CS, like he's a big figurehead, I think, and he did a lot for UCD esports in general. So this is his appreciation post because I just shit on his team. But we'll move on.
Wait, before you do, special shout out to Evan for committing it to writing that he would be very, 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 very surprised if UCC won. And this is just the dumbass Evan bit of the show.
He did give permission in our comments for anyone that's wondering. He said, more or less, you have my permission to shit on me.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how literal that means, but people in the stream, go for it, right? He goes to UCD. You can find out where he is. But yeah, feel free to shit on Evan because he gave permission because UCC just smacked his boys up. While we're on the topic of UCD, we'll quickly run through what happened with UCD and
Quickly, yeah.
DCU very quickly, because quickly is it's a pretty good way to describe
Jesus.
what happened in this game. Yeah, you can bring up the scores if you want. That's fine. Yeah, pretty much. No, I'm not making bitch excuses. We were always gonna lose the game. Okay, there is no doubt they are better than us. Their worst player is better than most of our team. Okay, maybe like 2, but still, right? We got our ass handed to us. We didn't play with 2 of what I would consider our best players, so we had to fill in. We were going to use like the other. We have a 7-man roster, so we were going to just rotate some of the lesser players, not the lesser players, but the not as good players.
You said it. You can't take it back
Yeah.
now.
Fine,
Take it back now.
whatever. One of them I really like, but but yeah, I mean, we kind of went into the game and was like, look, most of the guys didn't want to play. They kind of just like, what's the point? Like, it's just getting humiliated. I was like, lads, like, it's our last game together. We may as well have a laugh. So that's what we did. And it was actually probably my most fun ice game I've ever played. We just spewed the entire time. Every time we got the kill, we came in a lot of P90s, shotguns, shit like that. And we did better than WIT did, while we didn't try. So I think it's a bit of a laugh. They were a good team to play against. Like they some good sports there. I think they're pretty confident going into it. So yeah, no, it was a fun game, but they were better. There's no question. They're very good. And that's pretty much all could be said there. We've got another UCD team to talk about very briefly as well, because they also have the same treatment. They got I looked at the Steam scores, and I could quickly see C team were like 2-2 against Cubers. I was like, oh my god, they're gonna do it. And then it fell apart. And I don't think they got much more rounds. So that's the UCD. All of the college is gone. I think we only have one more team left in ice in general, and I think that's League of Legends, and that might end tonight. I don't know.
Not still
so-
have a Rocket League team.
No, they're gone. Yeah, it was an upset.
Sad.
Yeah, it was rough. It was a rough time for us. Yeah, I think that's
Someone in the chat, 3 sports got more rounds than you.
against
We'll have to see.
against ECU.
What point are we at on that? Oh no, I'm not too sure. I was looking at the stream to see what point we were at. It might be. I can take a look if we're really that bothered, but
Do you know what? I don't think we need to.
oh, here we go. It was on the same page. 16-14. And
16-14.
no, 16-4. Sorry, yeah, don't worry. Wanted to give you a mini hard eye. No, it looks 16-4 and 16-4. What did you guys get on them?
Like 16-6, 16-4 or something.
16-3 and 16-6. So
We win.
Oh yeah, just about.
By one
Close,
round.
close,
Well,
close.
lucky shooters talk again. Yeah. Thanks for bringing us back to that Gimpy. You end up getting burned for that. And then really quickly, MTUB. I mean, they
Toad.
played against TUD. Do we need to talk about it? Does anyone care? Like, it's just
I mean,
no.
they got 10 rounds on Mirage. I mean, come on.
Oh,
Oh,
shit,
shit.
yeah. And
Okay,
that was
it's
with
more
a
interesting.
double pop-off game. Adam JC getting 28 and Aract getting 28, but Shanker for MTUB dropping 31.
Damn, I think we're going to see MTU have a decent player pool. Like, they've done kind of bits, considering, like I said, the team that had one team last season that got 0 maps to now having 2 teams in the playoffs. Pretty impressive. 10 rounds against TUD, better than vast majority of teams. So I apologize to MTUB. That's very impressive for one of the maps. I mean, you still got smoked on the other one, I imagine.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting then to see what the A team turns out like next season, because maybe we could see an amalgamation between the two, like a little bit more mingling. But we'll see how that turns out. Like,
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of shuffles. But I think that's it for last week's games. And now we get the interesting stuff. This is we put, for anyone in the chat, there is a straw poll in our Discord. I assume most of you will Discord. So you can vote and we can keep track of who's got the best predictions. So we'll just keep it a little interesting. A little bit of competitive spice. So we'll take some predictions and we'll look at what we've got coming up. And then we'll take a look at some viewer questions. So we've got TUD and Trinity. Anyone betting against TUD?
I think even Ben's silence.
No, I didn't think so. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if Ben was here, he'd say now. However he talks, I don't know. They all sound the same to me. But
Yo, that's
yeah,
that's racist. As the only northerner here, that's racist.
okay. Yeah, that was it's unfortunate for Trinity. They get this far and then they run. We can see maybe Ekip and Queries can like have life games and take 5 rounds. Maybe if they're lucky. I mean, MTUB took 10 rounds. Do we think maybe TUD are bleeding, or do we think they were trolling?
I think they were
I
trolling. If I know Cats, he'll be running around with the sawed off and having fun.
Yeah, that's probably what happened, right?
yeah. Without any knowledge at all into the team, I don't know. Yeah, I think maybe if any good team, like if any team that were close to them, say if it was the same TU, if this TUD played last season and UCD met them in the finals or whatever, maybe that could have been the only one UCD wins. Just because I don't know, kind of seemed. Granted, one of them could have just been trolling when he retired for 2 hours, but you never know.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So 2-0 Todd. Ben also said 2-0 Todd.
okay. Yeah, we did get his predictions before he left as well. Otter, any idea?
2-0 Todd. What else am I going to say?
Yeah, fair enough. I suppose we'll move on to a more
Oh,
competitive.
and the crowd put, Todd, some TCD votes in there, but primarily Todd.
I wonder which college voted for Trinity. Then. I think
Exactly.
that worked together. Right, actual interesting game. DCU UCC. This is a banger. Who we got? Otter, are you going to say 2-0 to yourselves, or what do you think? How are you feeling going into it?
How am I? I mean, after the back of the UCD game, probably very confident, but at the same time, it's DCU. I think they would have slapped UCDA no bother as well. Had they
Really?
met them.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe it would have been a 2-1 against UCDA, just like us. Probably would have tilted them, and then that would have been their win as well.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't know. For me, probably a 2-1 either way.
Okay.
If we get 2-0, fair enough. If we 2-0 them, I'm not really sure if that will happen. It depends. I haven't looked at their map pool yet. I didn't really expect to face off them even if we reach the playoffs because I expected to be on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah.
But here we are. So honestly, either way, it depends. If we show up like we did against UCD on the last 2 maps, then yeah.
Okay, so you're saying 2-0 easy to UCC. Right. Okay. Ryan, what have you got going into this? What?
If I wanted to be correct, I would say DCU probably 2-1 or 2-0, but much like everyone else, well, much like a lot of people at the moment, I'm going to ride this UCC thing all the way to Todd. I'm going to go 2-1, yeah. Well, that's why I said Todd. I could have said the finals, but I'm not stupid, like.
Yeah. Okay.
Watch us do it.
Yeah. I bet against UCC before, and they came up against a weak UCD. So I don't know what they do against prime UCD, but DCU is another beast. I'm inclined to go 2-1 UCC. I think they'll pull it out. I think DCU play really puggy, and they're really like laughing about. But if it gets serious, I don't know how they'll be able to cope. I've heard a stream clip. This is the most bizarre back end piece of information. I heard a stream clip talking shit about another player. I don't know if he knew he was on
Wait,
stream.
hold on. What was the start of that sentence? She cut out whenever you said a
like,
name. I was hoping it wasn't intentional.
Oh no, okay. I heard a stream clip of one DCU player talking shit about another DCU player. I don't know if this person knows it's on stream. I don't think either of them know, but it's out there. If people are clever, they can pick up on it. I don't think that maybe it's not the best in the team. I think maybe some people don't like some people, and I think if it gets close, I think we could maybe see some clashing, some tilt, because there are tilters in the team. I mean, most teams do have tilters. I think there's some very clear tilters for me, and I think they get frustrated, especially if we're playing against a disciplined UCC. So I will go 2-1. I think maybe DCU. The Mirage is going to be a banger because DCU love Mirage. UCC, you guys love Mirage. I think it'll be a clash of styles, and I think it'll be a really interesting clash of between Bioko and yourself. I think it's going to be a really good game. But I'll back up my 2-1 to UCC. I'm on the train. I'm going for it. We're going to the moon.
Ben went 2-1 DCU, the absolute rat.
Oh.
Okay, interesting. He's going against you boys.
Yeah, and then the
Well,
crowd.
I mean, it's fair enough. I'm not going in expecting to crush these guys or anything. You have
Told
to
me earlier it's
respect.
going to be easy.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, that was off stream,
You
of course.
can't,
Like,
you can't be putting words in my mouth.
Okay, and then we've got
UCC, by the way, UCC. The crowd went UCC as well. 6 votes to 3. So
okay, I see.
Probably all the UCC lads.
Yeah, it's
watching
all your
this.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then wrapping things up slightly, we've got the QUB Derby. Who do we have? So Cubers versus Back Six.
Battle of Belfast.
Yeah. Anyone favoring the B team as such, or are we all going Back Six 2-0?
Back 6. I mean, unless like QBers have an advantage of knowing how they play. If anything from Roll's podcast last week was anything to go by, how they played a lot, because Back Six have a very interesting style, and it's a very tilting style, and it's so annoying to play against. Playing against TUD was less annoying than playing against these guys.
Like, how would you? In what way? What's annoying about their style? What is their style? I suppose.
Their style is figure out where you are and throw 4 HEs and mollies into your position, and then good fucking luck to you.
Okay.
They seem like when we scrim them, they seem to have anti-stratted us in a scrim. That's what they did. Like,
That's
if you think
fucking
we
annoying.
practice, these guys probably spend 3 or 4 days a week, probably 2 hours just practicing together. And I wouldn't be surprised they did, because it shows how they play. It's ridiculous. I know they didn't probably show up against TUD, but I say if they continue and they reach the finals, they can probably give TUD a good shot. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be surprised.
Yeah, I think I played against Cubers. Now, keep in mind they did have some technical issues in our game. I think they're good individually, and I think they've obviously got 2 really good players. Just I don't know. I don't think they'll be Back Six. I'll be honest. I'm probably going to go for a clean 2-0. They practice against each other regularly, so maybe they have that. If they've got some really good calls, if they're able to adapt, since they know what will maybe be going on a lot of the time. But I gotta favor Back Six here. There's a reason they're the A team, I suppose. And unless Slothy and Ozzy can have life game, I don't see it. So I'll go 2-0. Is everyone going 2-0?
Yeah, I'll go 2-0. Just at least to note that Ronan threatened to bench one of the A players anyway if the A players win. So you never know.
Okay.
Ben went 2-1 to Cubers actually.
To Cubers.
He said, "Up Ronan's men." That was his little message. I thought, yeah. How did the crowd go? Crowd went 6 votes to 4 for Back Six as well.
Okay, a bit closer then. Interesting. Okay, I think that'll be a good match though. I think that'll probably be. I mean, it makes sense as like the Derby. They'd get a good bit of viewership. I imagine they would. And then we've got finally NCI and WIT. That is a good match. But is anyone going against NCI? That is the question.
Nah.
Otter, what do you think?
Not a hope. I
Not a
mean, the way NCI is playing right now, we've scrimmed against them. They're really good. They're walking away with this 2-0. I'd like if WIT can make it over 11, 12 rounds, then yeah, that's good. Good shot for them. But
So dominant.
no shit to them, but they're getting domed here.
Yeah, I think NCI are great. I think they have some really good players, and I don't think Waterford IT are the best. Like we saw, they struggled against MTU without an Alco. I don't think NCI would have. So yeah, I'm gonna go 2-0 NCI. Ryan, what do you got?
Yeah, 2-0 NCI. Just that display against the MTUA when it was their first game after losing. They're a hard carry star player. That's not the kind of. It's not the image you want to be projecting either. And although we've talked about UCDA sort of having a bit of a tilt tournament, NCI did 2 of them whenever they weren't looking as weak as, they were basically the chink in the armor that made us think that they were UCD might have been a little bit fucked this season.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think Otter, you said 2-0.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone's going to go with that. It'd be interesting to see if WIT can do the upset, because that would be a massive upset. I actually think NCI are probably set for the finals. But that is maybe something we'll look at more in depth next week. But looking ahead, NCI and back six, which is probably going to be what the next stage will be, is a banger of a match. That is just so good. I'd say NCI are like diet TUD. They have the puggers, they have the aimers, and it'll just be whether they can turn up on the day. Because I think Comeback King and Jack Bond are scary to play against. I think they're really good players.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And then Ben went NCI 2-0, Monster Cock is too strong. And yeah, 7 votes to 2 for NCI as well. So clean sweep NCI.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's betting against them. And yeah, I think that's all the games for next week. So we've got some really interesting games. I think a few of us in the Discord might hop in and do a watch party of sorts next week. Just may as well talk shite about the games while they're happening. You can bully some people. I'm all for it. We can donut. And yeah, we'll quickly just move on to some viewer questions because we did get a good few in the Discord. Everyone should join the Discord. So we got a question. I think this was from Biggs about he just said import rule BB. So I'm guessing I can deduce from that he wants us to talk about the idea of maybe bringing it back. I mean, that wasn't a question, Quiggs. I know English isn't your best language, but you got to formulate a sentence a little bit, bro. But yeah, what would you guys think? What would the consequences be for the scene if we brought back the import rule? So that, just to clarify, one player on your team can belong to a different college.
Yeah.
Ryan, what would you say the implications would be?
Yeah, I think we might have talked about this previously. People like Drags, he's an extreme example because he's one of the best players in Ireland and he can't even get a team together for his college. UCDA actually, one of the many reasons that they didn't practice season was because they did have him, and then 2 weeks before the season started, they went through an ACA season together. They're ready to finally beat Tud. And then Big Eye Aiden just turned around and said, nah, motherfuckers, don't think that's happening. So slapped them with it. So obviously someone like him would come back to the college scene, which would be very fucking nice indeed. But then you have just people like Comeback King. There's a couple people around the scene that would get better teams, in my opinion. I think it would be better in terms of competition. Maybe not as good in terms of player base. You might have some teams that are doing slightly good off the back of the carry. They might just not bother if they don't have that really good player next season. So it'd be better for pure competition, but I think ICE would only do it if they had a guarantee that they could keep the numbers somewhat decent in terms of registration.
Yeah, Other, have you considered this before?
I kind of agree with mostly what Fleming said here. I think what would happen is, you'd lose your best player and all of a sudden you're not competitive. And then you'll just have 3 super teams running around crushing everyone until they meet each other in the playoffs. And you're just, that's probably just not fun if you have no place to go. I mean, I understand ICE's point of view. I think Newell does it as well. All 5 have to be from the same college. I think they're just trying to align themselves with how literally every other scene does it. And if they ever have a European competition, they send a pure college team and not one with a mix.
Yeah, I think it'll kind of become about who you know as well. Say UCDA knew Drags very well, right? They were friends. They have that advantage over teams because they didn't know Drags, if you get me.
Yeah.
So I think, as well as the fact, you were saying, good teams could become way better. Could you imagine? It's hard to say if you could improve TUD, but I mean, I don't know, let's say UCC. Let's bring Comeback King into UCC or Dasilius Unicorn or someone like that. That is huge. That great team just became pretty much unbeatable, I would say. That extra firepower. But yeah, I think I don't think it'll ever be a possibility. So I don't know how much it's really worth. Just with the WIT deal between ICE and them, the fact they're trying to legitimize it, I don't think they'll ever go back on it. It's a shame for those that played in it. It was great. I got to play with my friend from Trinity. We had some great times. Never happening again. So we'll move on from that. Yeah, it's just made me sad now. Opinions on what went wrong in the UCDA game, what you think should have been improved. Man, lads, the English in these, like I had to read in between the lines. We're missing a lot of key words, right? A lot of those, bees, that kind of stuff. But it's fine. I won't put you on name. I won't name you broken. You said this, okay? I won't. What do I think? I think UCD just. I don't think they were prepared enough. I think they were stupid to play Mirage. I don't know why they would. I think if they'd done their homework, they would have known that it's a scary map. I think. I mean, I don't know how warmed up they were all feeling. Like, you can't expect like the likes of Incipients, who has a full-time job, like it as well as doing college, everything. Like, it's hard to get the extra practice in. So I don't know how much he's able to just practice on raw aim, but it just felt like they were outclassed. I think to improve them, put me in there. I think that's the obvious improvement, and we'll see if I can do it next season. What are your thoughts on the
Oh,
idea?
just quickly there as well too. Maybe one of the players being drunk by it. No, obviously he wasn't. But I think whenever you have a team that relies on chemistry and they big up the whole time how past seasons they've made comebacks and they've just believed in each other, and through the power of friendship they've won random clutches that they shouldn't. Whenever that friendship turns to maybe disdain, a bit of anger between people, that chemistry and clutch ability just flies out the window, and then you suddenly have Darkness running around with an op playing fucking shotgun, you know?
Yeah. No, fair enough. We've got a few repeat questions. A lot, actually. Yeah, what are your thoughts on the idea of maybe ICL doing a league over the summer where people, mainly students, can have more time for team prac, etc.?
Didn't Ice have a summer season at one
I
point?
think they did once. I didn't play in it now. Did you? I assume not.
No.
Yeah.
It was like I thought I saw it, and it was definitely before I came to college.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting. I think a lot of students, though, do work full time over summer, and I don't know if they'd get the numbers they'd want. Like, it works because the normal ICE works because it's in conjunction with the college semester. So they can structure their days in weeks really. Like, for me, this semester for college, I chose to have Wednesdays with no classes because I'm a little bit flexible because I knew I had my games there. So like, I think it works really well versus maybe unreliable part-time jobs, full-time jobs in shops that say, "Can you come in today?" It's like, "Oh no, I have a CS job. I have a CS game." I think I don't think it'll work as well. I'd love to see it. Would I play in it? Probably, yeah. And I like the point as well. People would have more time to practice as well, but I guess it varies from person to person, obviously, as everything. We got a question just there from Ronan from last week. What map would you like to see more played in Ice? / what map do you feel is overplayed? Ryan and Otter, what do you think? What would you like to see more of?
Well, answering it back to front, I see Overpass so fucking much. Everyone seems to enjoy a game of Overpass. And don't get wrong, it makes for some exciting games whenever you have that crossover. But Overpass is just like exciting when it goes to the B side, boring as shit when it goes to the A side, in my opinion. Because obviously there's that map control build up and then the execute. There's none of this like battling for short control and stuff like that. In terms of what doesn't get played a lot, I haven't really seen a lot of nuke games. Maybe I've just not been looking hard enough, but nuke can be quite interesting sometimes if there's a decent bit of outside play and stuff like that. But I feel like it's a bit too execute heavy if you're a terrorist, if you're a T side. I feel like you'll get stomped if that's not your strong suit. And granted, people can't even find enough time to practice for playoff games. I doubt they're going to be practicing during group stages for a nuke game.
Yeah, I think I'll come in now quick. I think Overpass is overplayed to fuck. I think it's actually really boring now. I feel like every team is playing it, and it's just like, I feel like it's most people's not, or maybe not UCC. You guys love it, but I feel like most people don't have it as their favorite. It's just middle of the road. They'll play it, and I think that leads to a lot of boring games. I found it pretty boring playing it over and over again. I don't find it too exciting anymore. I think Inferno isn't played enough. I think Dust 2 isn't very much played. I think they're both really exciting maps.
Just
I think
choose a bad map, so
I think Dust 2 could be so exciting to watch. I think some fast plays. The raw skill of players is just really on demand. Is really on display there even. And then on Inferno on the opposite end, I don't think it's played enough. It's more tactical. Who's got the best nades? What teams can coordinate their nades at the right time? Stuff like that. I'm not saying this because I love Inferno. I think it's the best map, but I think it's really underplayed. Maybe it's because a lot of the teams don't know how to coordinate the nades, etc., the practice and all that. Anton, what would you say? What's overplayed? What's underplayed?
I'd agree with the overpass. I wasn't even thinking about it until you said it, and then I realized, yeah, it's played a lot. Mirage kind of played a lot, but I know a couple of teams just permaban it as well. Back six permaban it, so it's like okay. Um, I think Vertigo is an underrated map. I know a lot of people hate it, or it's just a map it's like one of the worst on their list, but it's not the worst, so they won't ban it. But then it gets played, and they don't know what to do. I think from a viewer's perspective, if you know the map, I love watching Vertigo more than any other map.
Really?
It is. I think it's so interesting how people have different approaches to taking mid or short on A or B or anything. I think it's quite interesting more than just watching, like you said, overpass, take B short control. That's it. Maybe walk up long, sleep there again. Play dust 2, rush long, rush B, rush mid. What else am I going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's probably fair enough, to be honest. I think Vertigo isn't played by a lot of teams because maybe a lot of the newer players, or they're not as good players, I guess, don't really know how to play it. I don't love the map. I think it could be interesting. There's a lot of I still see really unique lineups, really cool nades being thrown all the time. So I guess from that aspect, it's pretty interesting. And I think a team that practices it a lot, I think it could be a really good show to see like two teams playing on Vertigo. It really, I feel like nades are so more so than other maps. It's like an Inferno, I guess, and that nades will just win you the map. Some interesting pod flashes. It shows a lot more team cohesion. I think it's kind of hard to pug out Vertigo.
Yeah.
Other than the teams like UCDC that literally just rush ramp. And that is all they do. That is what they do. Speeding on through now, unless anyone has any thoughts on that. Nope.
No.
So what are our thoughts on this from Ankle Joints UC bench player? Or sub, I should say, not bench player. How basically asking how good is it to teams that don't normally make it far this time. So he gave the example, UCD are kind of expected to reach the final. Do we prefer seeing it that maybe some underdogs get through? I mean, I think that's kind of a leading question. I think it's probably obvious. It's obviously interesting to see some variation. I think it's really cool to see UCC. I think we can kind of see the expectations from the casters, like Evan's comments. No way he thought the UCD, who are this Leviathan, the perfect analogy for it.
Probably still had the remains of last season's team in his head.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe. I think a lot of people probably thought, not that the other two are bad players. It's just I don't think anyone's better than Lenny and Milk. Yeah, no, I think obviously it's just interesting. I like the likes of NCI, who maybe wouldn't have had a chance before against an on-form UCD. I think it's cool to see them doing well as well. What would you guys say? Do you prefer the variation?
Otter, I'll let you go first.
I like it. It's nice to see other teams, especially upset the established teams. No plug there. It's fair enough. Like I've watched the last 3 seasons, and it's always been UCD, TUD final, sleep through it. NCI reaches semis, sleep. If DCU play, they reach semis, sleep. It's just like you have your 4 right there in your semis. I'll watch the quarters. That's pretty interesting, and then I'll watch the finals for the faint hope that UCD will pull a miracle off.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the story every season. Even back to when Trinity were actually the dominant. Little history lesson. Before TUD got really good, Trinity were the TUD. So they had Ekip, they had God of Fire, they had some other players that don't play anymore. Graduated this a long time ago. And UCD lost the finals to them every time. So, I mean, I guess if we're going with the same thing, it would have been cool to see UCD win once. But I mean, no chance now. Not this roster.
Yeah. It depends what way you want to look at it, really. If you think that, in terms of Do you want the underdogs beating the favorites if it's the favorites on an off day, but next game they'll be back to normal? I prefer the favorites because I want like the best teams to play each other. But because TUD just, it doesn't matter who makes it to the final, TUD will just beat them anyway. It kind of makes it a little bit of a null point. It just makes the road to getting to that slapping a little bit more exciting if you have underdogs. If the finals were actually close and, you know, UCD win a couple of years, TUD wins a couple of years, I don't mind it as much having those two, because I think anyone else maybe gets slapped out twice as hard if there was any variation. But because TUD just win at the end, yeah, I think a very ice specific question, yeah, I think underdogs winning. But in general, at like bigger tournaments where everything's a lot more balanced, I kind of prefer the established teams to get there and have like the really exciting games. But
yeah, no, I see the same in Pro CS. Obviously, you can't compare Ice to Pro CS, but like Navi, like a simple, I always like to see simple because he's the best at what he does.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe in Ice, I would root for UCC, who are the underdogs. Maybe not so much anymore. But I think we had another question about splitting. We talked about that last week. Not much point going into it again, unless Otter, you have any thoughts about whether you
splitting
think
the league?
I don't think it's a good idea. That's my stance on it. Unless you could, I know for League, it's easier because everyone has a competitive rank, and you could probably put a limit.
Yeah.
Let's say gold or whatever you put on there, and that's fine. You could probably theoretically do it in Valorant, since the only matchmaking is the matchmaking there, unless you're that crazy bastard who plays Face It on it. But CSGO, it's not happening. I think some B teams it'll basically be a division with another TUD on it, you know?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, I thought about that just when I was looking at the question, whether I would choose between playing on maybe UCD A or playing on UCDB in like a B division, and which I prefer, like King in a small pond or a little bit smaller in a bigger pond, I guess. I don't know. I think the satisfaction of crushing shitters is like I regard that I hold that in a high regard. But then, like, obviously competitive, like the spirit of competition, you'd want to play against the best teams you can, all that shit. Hard to know. I don't see Ice doing it right though, so I would just say keep what they're doing. Try seed it the best they can. I think next season they'll maybe
keep it simple. Yeah, keep it simple and don't fuck it up.
Yeah, that's what I would say. And I think that's it for all of our questions. People in the chat bitching about not being streamed.
To be honest, we were streamed too much.
Three times apparently, yeah.
Yeah, that is a lot, especially when I thought the Maynooth UCC game was so unnecessary. When I don't remember what other game was on, but I remember a banger was supposed to be on that same week, and they didn't get streamed, and I'm like, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah, I think when we talked about that so many times, Ice are just well, it's really weird because they try to make a point of bringing as many teams as possible on. But as we've just said, they brought on one team way too many times, but they don't pick the most competitive. So like you're not doing either at that point. So you're just kind of pissing everyone off because you're not getting everyone on stream and you're not getting the best games. You're just sort of rolling a dice. I don't know if it's background or if it's opinions, because obviously UL didn't get streamed at all. Make of that what you will if you think that is one way or the other. But
Ice hate UL. You heard it here. The UCD bias that Ice historically has. That's a reference for anyone that would remember it. But I think we'll wrap it up there. We've got our predictions in. Feel free to use the Discord. We have our straw polls still up, I'm pretty sure. Are they up still?
I'm not too sure, but I'm just going to take the results from when we read them.
That's fine. So yeah, feel free to use matches coming up next week. We've got some really interesting games. And yeah, that'll do us. I think we've been live for a while. No Ben this week. He'll be back next week to talk about DCU and UCC, and that's probably all that's happening next week. I don't think there's too much. Maybe the back six QUB game.
It should be fun. Yeah,
I think there's some interesting games. Thank you everyone for watching. I think goodbye. Thanks to Otter as well.
Yeah. Ciao.
Bye.